Going to say what? Claims include mixed letters, forms, punctuations not found in authentic ancient Paleo Hebrew, and lack of contextual site showing an ancient Middle Eastern presence. It says we can read this and so and so. Translation, interpretation of the inscription. Some scholars scholarly sources offer translation based on Hebrew text interpretation. Example, from a private translation, which we don't care for. Let's continue. The text is read as a form of the Ten Commandments, familiar from the Hebrew traditions. The translation is not accepted in the mainstream archaeology or epigraphy, but appears in discussion between people who believe the stone is ancient. But we will show the difference just now. Now you understand the importance of this, because like Christianity being a mainstream religion which teaches foolishness and does not know what they are speaking about, because we have shown that from time and time again, and those that have come out, waking up, know and bringing out this truth, which is the Hebrew Israelites that are not mainstream and are rejected, while the mainstream is accepted. Notice that. Notice that the non-mainstream usually are rejected. Does it mean that they are false? Nope. Does it mean that they are speaking the truth? Some most likely. We have nothing else. We have nothing other to fool someone. What do we have to gain from fooling somebody at this point in time? This is why we carefully do our research and do our due diligence, which is why I can bring up something like this, and you yourself could see this and not get confounded. It's simple. Let's continue. Christopher Columbus did bring a Hebrew interpreter on his first voyage, right? It says, somebody is itching. Who he was is Louis de Torres. Wikipedia was Columbus' interpreter on his first voyage, right? He was a Spanish Jewish convoy chosen by Columbus specifically for his knowledge of the Hebrew, Chaldeans, and Arabic, right? Right. Columbus sent him inland from Cuba to explore, hoping Torres' language skills might help with the native language or with contacts um, with Asians. Now here's the point. It does this, and this itself can show that this diary, with the remaining that was mentioned, is indeed true. It says this is no surviving there's no surviving record from Thoros himself saying he heard or recite the Shema, recite the Shemai with indigenous people. No indigenous people. No diary entry corroborated testimony exists confirming that. His historical accounts only records his language skills. Primary Columbus diary is lost, and what survive exists in later copies. And we are going to show you these later copies according to the journals, which again, Christopher Columbus information, which we read before, showing that he did hire Hebrew interpreters for a set reason. And these people, though they speak corrupted Hebrew, kept the ways and laws of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, didn't they? Though they were inclined to worship idols, which is also part of their ways, because of being against the Heavenly Father before they reached the land. This is very much common sense. This is why we had to read through to get the understanding of. Let's now listen. So I'm gonna go into it. Boom. Get straight to the point. Right. So look right here, the credible sources dealing with what we were talking about. But I want to get involved directly dealing with the not the mobile stone. Why they didn't bring up the rest for me. So like let me pause. So we have from scholars, researchers, supporters linked to Hebrew Semitic interpretation. We have Frank C. Hibben, a professor, an archaeologist at University of Mexico. Claim and contributions reported seeing the inscription covered with Lichten in 1933 and maintained it appeared very old and possibly authentic before modern awareness of Paleo-Hebrew script. Hibben's observation is often cited by those suggesting the stones was known before the wider discovery of Paleo-Hebrew. We also have the next one, which is Cyrus H. Gordon, profession archaeolinguist, Near Eastern European Eastern language scholar, claim and contribution proposed the inscriptions resembles in Samaritan of Mezuzah with the shortened Decalogue in a Semitic script, which again goes back to Gordon's works, is frequently referenced by those claims Semitic Hebrew derived alphabet origins. Wikipedia, which you can grab in both aspects. So there's two. Now, only 3 scholars made mention that they do believe that it's ancient. But who would have the ancient Hebrew? Let's be real, only the ancient Hebrew would have the ancient Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew speaking people, which are the Israelites and its descendants, would only have the ancient Hebrew. That's common sense, but let's continue. So this is 3. Barry Fell, professional amateur epigrapher and author, claim contributions argued that the punctuations and some letter features in the Los Lunas text are consistent with ancient Semitic inscriptions, styles, and interpreted text through and Epigraphic Society publication. We have James D. Tabor, profession, religious studies scholar, claims. So there's not just one. We have archaeologists, archaeolinguistic and Near Eastern language. Then we have amateur epigrapher and author. Then we have religious studies scholar. So there's also more in different fields aside from one. Let's continue. Interviewed Hibbins and published an article asserting Hibbins' conviction that the inscriptions was ancient. Tabor's work circulated in alternative archaeology cycles. Verse 5, which is verse 5, which is I see here. I'm gonna pause it. I think again I cool. So verse 5, which you have Jurgen Noof and some collaborators, professional contributors to online epigraphy discussions and epigraphic society related claims and contribution produced transcripts and comparative epigraphic analysis linking the characters on the stone to Hebrew Phoenician forms. These are cited in several non-mainstream related archives. So for those to say that the only remaining in they say that how the Shammai was not recorded, so they can't confirm it. It was not recorded other aspects, but only in the book, and the majority of the book was lost, except for the copy that remains, which brought for the information, which still says that the Shammai exists. And if the Shammai exists, and these indigenous people that they came to, as mentioned in the Lost Tribe and the Promised Land, it's a book you can actually grab and read. If you notice, very important, notice this point, that the Christopher Columbus stated that the female of the tribe came up and ushered the Shammai, which is Shammai, Yasharala, Yahweh, Alahayanawa, Yahweh Acher, right? If you uttered that, this is more critical or crucial than archaeology. Because, again, making it make very much sense. Tribes, right, which usually stems with a core belief like Israel, go according to traditions and culture. And that traditions and culture that was only given to Israel and was not given to any other nation, pay attention, wasn't given to any other nation, it would have been impossible for a new nation that is on a new land to know the Shema unless they were Israel that migrated out of the east. Right there, we have the books with the evidence, we have the scholars providing making sure that what this is, this actually is the truth. And then we have the archaeological location, which is New Mexico, dealing with the stone, which they notice what they tried to do. They try to dismiss these three aspects of it. But no matter how they try to dismiss it, these three aspects line up perfectly. Notice that. All right, notice. Just notice it. Notice Christopher Columbus hired a Hebrew interpreter and is mentioned mainly for the 3 points: Hebrew, Aramaic, and the other. So main points, because they're aiming to do what? Bounce up the Hebrew, the lost 10 tribe, which is mentioned in scriptures, which in the very said book, they said they use Ezra chapter 13 to look for as a way to get to that land, as mentioned. These things were recorded. All right, let's continue. So we have, again, discussions on epigraphy and society, claims, contribution, produced and transcriptions, and comparative epigraphy analysis, linking the characters of the stones to Hebrew, Phoenicians, forms. It says these are cited several non-mainstream related archives. Verse 6. See that? These are cited in several. This is one of them. The others, like the first 3, was mainstream. The others this is not. And the next one, I believe this is supposed to be mainstream, and I think the last one's supposed to be not as well. So it shows that was mainstream and shows that those that were not. Okay? So it's, again, and it still shows more than before that the ancient Hebrew mention was backdated before Columbus came in, which means the only people that would have write that would have been the indigenous people that he met on the land, because they were the ones that were inhabiting the land. It's not hard. This is common sense. Very much common sense. Let's continue. It says David Allen Deal, which deal in 1984, profession, author, alternative history researcher. See, claim plus contribution, published transcription and explorations of stones, setting and inscriptions in Discovery of Ancient America, 1984, referenced by proponents. We have a next one. Donald Klein, 1982, and contributor of Epigraphy Society, occasional publications. It says claims and contributions provided one of the early published transcriptions of the inscriptions in the Epigraphic Society, occasional publications series, which has been used to proponents to support a Semitic reading. And last but not least, right there, right? So this is the last one on top. Of course, an ancient Hebrew writer, Jeff A. Benner, and ancienthebrew.org, which you can grab as well. Profession, independent researcher and script specialist. So you have both sides of the field, not just one. It says claim and contribution asserts that the stone's characters are ancient Hebrew, often dating them to early Hebrew scripts. Error and interpreting the content as the Ten Commandments. Their website and writings are widely circulated among alternative archaeology and Hebrew Israelite communities. This is a late insight, but let me deal with the main one, which is from 1 to 7. This is a late insight after agreeing with what was mentioned, but from 1 to 7 gave the key points, identifying that these writings are from before Christopher Columbus, as was mentioned. So let's continue to the next part. Shalom.